This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
And joining me now, John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette and avid pickleball player. How are you, John?
I'm about pickled. I had heard for years and resisted, not years, months, that people who used to play tennis had gotten into pickleball and it was addictive. And they were right. And I've played 4 times in the last 5 days. And that's good for me. And I may be a part of that new block that they're talking about, the pickleball voters, you know.
Is it good for you physically and mentally, or just physically? Because you seem to still get pretty worked up about winning.
Yes. I had a partner from out of town that I've only known a little and didn't know well. And in the middle of yesterday morning's match, she said, "John, your blood pressure, I don't have to take it. It's too high." Because I was, it was a big point. And I said, "I know, I'll calm down, take a deep breath." But that's the thing about pickleball. You get four grown men on a small court. It's a social event too. And I don't get as worked up about it as I used to about tennis. But some people are just competitive and hate to lose. Have you ever known anybody like that, or am I the first?
No, I've known you for a long time, John, and I have known other people like that. So
that's what I meant. Yeah. But it's good for me. I recommend it. Get you put in a pickleball court out at your Chenal market and have some people come play. They're breaking that all over.
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
Let's talk about our former governor, ASA Hutchinson, gets off to a start in his presidential bid with a downtown Bentonville rally last week. Kind of a throwback in my estimation. It kind of had the fanfare of a small town announcement in a nice, picturesque, kind of nostalgic way. What was your take on his announcement and how it played nationally?
I think it was a throwback. It was hometown color. It was, and it sort of fits one element of his message, which I've called, let's go back to the future, to the 80s. Let's go back to Reagan's Morning in America. Let's go back to a time when the Republicans might actually win a popular vote. I know that's not essential. They can become president and have frequently, like twice lately, without winning the popular vote. But the Republicans have not carried the popular vote in this century, except narrowly once, George W. Bush over John Kerry. So he's trying to make a more palatable, center-friendly, swing vote-friendly message work in a party that's gone off the cliff. They went so far right, they've gone off the cliff. But they still got enough people down at the bottom of the cliff who survived that dominates the party. And of course, it's a Trump-DeSantis game right now. So I thought he got his message. He had his images. These images are good. The national reviews are okay. A lot of people are having the same take I've got, which is that it'd be swell if Republicans would actually go with this, because it would help the American political condition as well as the Republican political condition. But people who say that, including me, tend to think right now, not going to happen because of the utter dominance of Trump and the emergence, if not Trump, of a facsimile in DeSantis. So I think that's generally how it's being accepted. There are a lot of the presidential candidate landscape is littered with people, Tim Pawlenty, Bruce Babbitt, who the press liked and admired and sort of wished they could succeed, but they never do. So that's sort of the take on ASA's situation.
It's not a complete apples to apples comparison, but it's not too far off. And that is, if you look back at when Bill Clinton announced he was running for president, he was a long shot at that time. I think George H.W. Bush's approval ratings were around 90%. Everybody called it a fool's errand when he jumped in. And we know what happened historically. But he also was trying to pull the Democratic Party back from its far left fringes more into the middle, into the centrist part of the nation. And I think ACE is doing something similar to that, or trying to do something similar to that with the Republican Party. Is that a fair analysis?
It's a fair analysis. Also fair is something I'm just going to endorse now, but try not to plagiarize. You asked that same thing yesterday, I think, somewhere. You have so many shows, I can't keep up.
I did mention it with Chuck Todd on Meet the Press.
Chuck Todd, and I've never been a particular fan of Chuck Todd, but I thought he answered it just right. Yes, it's similar, but the Democrats were on a losing streak post-Reagan when Clinton came along saying, I'm a new kind of Democrat with the third way, and they were receptive to the concept that they needed to change and hold their nose and accept a message that was less pure. He doesn't think Republicans are in that condition because they're still addicted to Trump or Trumpism or their resentment conservatism, and they think they don't have to change necessarily in order to win because the electoral states are so embedded that they're close enough to winning that they don't need to change. That Chuck Todd saw as the difference. And I was sitting here watching you and Chuck and thinking, well, Chuck, I think you got that about right.
He also said that they didn't think they lost the election either. There's a pretty
well. Also, yeah. The Democrats always accepted that they got beat. That's another difference. But the point is, the climate, the Democratic attitudes were willing to say, let's try to win. We're just getting creamed, and let's try this young guy from Arkansas with his different kind of message. Republicans, well, at present, ASA's polling anywhere from 0 to 3. We'll see. It's not always about national polls. It's about what are you doing and are you gaining in Iowa? I suspect he may be at this point. Yeah. So good luck to ASA, and he's doing well, and I'm proud that he's advancing the message that he is, and we'll just have to see if he surprises a lot of us by getting anywhere with it.
You had an interesting analogy that you've used, I think, in a recent New York Times article. Would you care to share how you summed up the race at this point, or ASA's candidacy?
Yeah. They are. The New York Times puts together, whenever somebody announces for president this year, they're putting together a columnist gallery, some of their columnists and then some invited guests to rate that candidate's chances 1 to 10, and then do these little 300 or 400 word blurbs on 4 or 5 questions. And when ASA announced, they decided it helped to bring in somebody local who knows the candidate to participate in this panel and be a part of this article. And they invited me to do so, and I thought, sure, I'd like to talk to the nation about ASA Hutchinson. That's a great opportunity. And I described him, should we take his candidacy seriously, was the question. And I said, we ought to, because his message is what his party needs to hear, and it'd be good for the climate of American politics, but it probably won't be, because he's a workhorse in a game played by show horses. And that's actually, somebody on CNN quoted that yesterday and asked him about it, and he took some exception, pleasant exception. He said, I can bring the fun if I have to, is what he said on CNN. Have you ever seen ASA bring the fun? Maybe so. We had 8 years to look for it. But that's the way I see it. I'd also toyed with, in another reference, I described ASA's candidacy as a tortoise in a game that's played by a bunch of wild hares. The show horses, the wild hares in this metaphor, it's Trump and DeSantis. Showy, not necessarily substantive, not necessarily seriously not seriously sober in their politics, but out there with extremism, but possessed of personalities or images that are dominating. That's sort of what I meant by that.
All right, let's turn our attention to the Arkansas legislature. On Monday, they officially sine-died. They're adjourned. They can do no more damage in a regular session. They will have to rely on the governor to call them into special session to do anything else. What will this 94th General Assembly regular session, what will it be known for?
It will be known for a giant prison. It will be known for culture war bills that mostly were for show, that may not amount to much, except to pander to the right-wing bases that the Republican legislators are afraid of because they don't want to get primaried. And then it will be known for whatever happens to public education in the wake of the Learns Act. I think erosion and tragedy, travesty, but we'd get a different view from the governor and her and the longtime advocates of school choice and major conservative principled reform. But that's what it's all about. I think the culture war bills, unless we've got a full-time private parts police force, I think a lot of the transgender bathroom stuff is passed for the benefit of passing. That's not going to amount to anything. The library bill, there are memos from a state library official. You're not going to get prosecuted under this. It seems outrageous. Somebody made her take that back. And then then it's probably going to be sued over how is it that we've got to sequester all of our printed material that somebody finds objectionable while the library system apps that anybody can access have the same material. And so I'm just the effect of all this cultural war noise, I think, may be negligible. But we're going to wind up with how many bed prison? 3,000, 5,000. How much? Big thing. And we're going to have something happen to public education, and and that's what it will be known for.
The legislature did finish their business, as I indicated, on Monday without taking on any of the vetoes that Governor Sanders laid out there. What do you make of them not trying to overturn any of those vetoes? They passed overwhelmingly, and some of them were kind of small potatoes, to be honest with you, but there didn't seem to be much appetite in the Senate, and then the House just went with their previous resolution, didn't even come back and officially sign and die today. They just went with a motion that they made before they left earlier a few weeks ago.
What do I make of that? Sarah's in charge and she's the boss, and we don't have a legislative process so much anymore. We just have a Queen's Court, and everybody's afraid of her, particularly if it's not going to amount to anything. And the Democrats could have tried to override and just embarrass themselves. I mean, if you move for an override as a Democrat of a couple of these things and you get 18, 20 votes, what have you gained? Literally nothing, except a pointless exercise. So it's just, it's the Sarah Sanders government right now. And the legislature is a new form of Me Too movement right now in Arkansas.
Well, perhaps you can get them interested in pickleball, and maybe we could start a legislative pickleball charity event or something like that. Would you participate?
Yes, anything that might help the temperament of our political circumstance, I'd be happy to do.
All right. He's John Brummett, columnist with the Democrat Gazette. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Roby. Bye-bye.